I'll do this now. Um, since I'll just do it like this. Because most people, when they do reviews, a lot of them anyway, for video games and whatnot, they like to use the clips from the game and all that. And I don't know, I kind of prefer it like this because it's, just, it's like I'm talking to a friend, right? So, so here we go. I'm just gonna do it with the main menu, but you can still see me. So here we go. The Devil in Me. This game was honestly mid. And if I'm gonna have to classify this, so of all the four games so far. By the way, if there's an after credit scene, I didn't see it, but I will watch it like after like I do this, because I skipped the credits. Like fuck the credits. Like I closed the game. I stopped giving a shit about it. But anyway, so this is the fourth game. Out of all the games so far, my favorite one is probably a cross of either Little Hope or House of Ashes. Maybe House of Ashes. Not this one. This one's better than Man of Medan, but not better than the other two. So let's go ahead and get into actually talking about this game. First off, now I will be repeating a lot of the critiques I'm going to give are stuff that I've already seen in the playthrough, but I can't count that everybody's seen the playthrough. So here we go. This game had a lot of new additions to it, like traversal, jumping, climbing, shimmying, crouching, that type of shit, jogging. But all of it's mostly worthless. Here's why. The main critique, like, when it comes to the crouching, jogging, whatnot, so I'm starting with gameplay here. Next, I'll go to I'm starting with the gameplay, then I'll go to the characters I'll go to the atmosphere, which includes, well, I'll talk about it when I get to it. Gameplay. Crouching, whatnot, all those new additions, as cool as they are, kind of frivolous. And here's why I say that. Does it make it more realistic to have, cliffs and whatnot that you can, like, do shit like that with it? Yes, it does. But at the same time, like, all you do to activate these things is just press the action button. And, like, I understand that a lot of these things, especially the jogging, was basically from player feedback saying, hey, we want to be able to do other shit in this game, right? But it kind of defeats its own purpose gameplay-wise when all you have to do is press the fucking action button. It doesn't feel any different. And even jogging itself. Jogging does speed up the pace a bit, a little bit more than fast walking, I'll give you that. But the main criticism was from things like Until Dawn, when you're playing as What's-His-Face and Jessica's like dying. And then what happens is, like, she's like, oh my god, help! And then he's just like, where are you, Jessica? And he's like walking slow, he's just regular walking. It's like, what? Fucking run, motherfucker. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on those. Neat additions, I guess, was kind of frivolous. Other than that, okay, I can't deny, I don't have much to say about the gameplay other than those additions, and here's why. Reason why is very simple. Because firstly, except for those additions, this game's gameplay is just like every other Dark Pictures anthology. So apply the logic on those to this. That's all there is to it. And secondly, honestly, gameplay, like, this game doesn't have much to it. This game's gameplay is pretty much walking simulator, QTE. Dialogue. You find files, that's about it. That's not to say it's not an enjoyable experience, but just saying, like there's not much to this game gameplay-wise. The only additions are what I've just mentioned, and even those are like meh, to me at least. Because most of the time, if a character needs to run, they'll just do it like in a cutscene, and then there's a QTE. So it's kind of worthless. This game honestly doesn't have much to go for gameplay-wise. I gotta admit. But that being so, that's pretty much it for gameplay. So next will be atmosphere. By atmosphere, I mean graphics, how the game looks, how it runs, the lighting, the music, all type of shit. As far as graphics goes, this game's atmosphere does its job, but also doesn't do its job. It does its job in a normal, spooky kind of way, in the sense that its graphics are great, its fidelity is generally great. I think there was a lag here and there. The music by Jason Graves is about as good as any in the game. It's nothing to write home about, but it suffices for what it's trying to do. So overall, it's about the same as any other, the atmosphere. But here's where it falls a little short. The spooky factor. Now, these are not horror games, but they do try to employ horror elements. Here's why I say, though, that they kind of fail in that regard. And the perfect example of this is that cabinet cat jump scare. This game does not do enough to set its atmosphere up for horror outside of some scenes. Like, I see probably the most horror vibe in this game is when Erin is using her thingy, like the audio thingy, and then like she's wandering around, like she gets led into that room. That was a horror vibe, but most of this game doesn't have that, and it's part of why the cabinet cat thing fell flat for me personally, because the atmosphere was not spooky whatsoever, and then they gave you some bullshit random jump scare out of nowhere with some cat that I don't even think you've ever seen before, and that was it. Fucking really? So in that sense, it sucked. You wanna do a game that does very well in terms of horror atmosphere? There's two of them. One is Outlast, and the other one is Amnesia: Dark Descent. Both those games do fan-fucking-tastic in terms of horror atmosphere. So once again, kind of short, but that's the atmosphere. I'll go to the characters next. Characters, honestly, boring. Just gotta be honest. Although this is also where I'll mention that one thing that I was gonna criticize, but then that last cutscene kind of saved its ass. Well, no, I'll mention that in the narrative. Here's why I don't write home about these characters too much. I don't really care. I really don't. So you had Kate and Mark, whose whole thing was basically Erica and Eric King and what's her face from House of Ashes. All they did was repeat that, basically the same fucking thing. Then you had Jamie, who was just a little bitch. When I say bitch, I mean the mean kind, not the pussy kind. And then you got Charlie, who's just an asshole. And guess who was an asshole before? The guy who's the bus driver in Little Hope. He was pretty much the asshole in Little Hope. He was pretty much the asshole in House of Ashes. He was the hotel guy in this game, in the initial. He was the Holmes guy. But his role was just filled by Charlie. Like, they're repeating character shit. At least that's why I see it. So I don't really find any of them particularly interesting. Sorry to say. That's what it is. So fuck me on that, I guess. But I don't have much to write out. Like, honestly, a lot of this game isn't very noteworthy to me. So now I'll go ahead and that's all for the characters. I have nothing else to say about it. Other than that, it's basically just recycling the same shit. So here's the overall narrative now. I'll start with the other thing I was going to say. So here's the critique I was going to give it until the last cutscene. When Holmes gets caught in the beginning, he says, bury me under all this conqueror like that, no matter what you do, even if you kill me, it won't stop me from doing it again. Up until the last cutscene, I was about to say they did jack fucking shit with that. But the last cutscene, they almost implied, that like maybe he's reincarnated or some shit. And so like maybe Dumet's not just one guy. For the mask and all that. So, in all honesty, I don't have much of an issue with that. I actually find that to be interesting. And guess what, though? The Dumet part of it, like that part of it with Dumet, is pretty much the only part of it that I find to be somewhat interesting. Because, it's not a bad narrative, but it really gets boggled down by two things. Two things in particular. Thing number one is the fact, and this is a huge problem for me, the main boss himself. There's every other game. Okay, Man of Medan and Little Hope don't technically count because they're hallucinations, but still. Man of Medan had hallucinated monsters. Little Hope had hallucinated people. Here's the thing, though. A crowd of people who are fucked in the head is dangerous. So I can get behind that. House of Ashes was real shit. House of Ashes had to deal with like this group of aliens, right? That were fucked up and hard to kill and allergic to the sun, basically. This game had one cocksucker with a fucking axe or knife. And that's it. Now, one-on-one, I can get people wanting to run away from, right? If Aaron's one-on-one, Jamie's one-on-one, even Charlie's one-on-one, I get it. He's intimidating. But when you have a whole group of 3 or 4 people, there's no reason to be afraid of him anymore. I'm sorry. He was a special agent. Cool. It doesn't matter to me. Like, Mark and Charlie, at the very least, could fuck that motherfucker up. And all of them together, right? He swings an axe at you, just fucking, like, those two could both catch that shit, just hold it off, and then hit him one by one. Fucking, here's what you can do. Here's what you can do. I'll give you a scenario. He swings his axe at Jamie. Charlie and Mark both catch the axe. Okay? They both stop it from hitting. Or Jamie can even just dodge out of the way. That works too. Here's what they do. Let's say Charlie, right? Charlie can just kick that motherfucker in the back of the goddamn knee, knock him to the fucking ground, curb stomp the fuck out of him forever. And make sure you keep any items out of his disposal, out of his grasp. That's it. You won. So that's like, okay. I was on board with this narrative up until the point where I was on board with this narrative when they had it in the hotel, when it was in the hotel, and when it was the traps and all that. I was on board with it. Once they took him out of that hotel and all the traps and all that, and put them into just like fighting him like as a person, that's when it lost interest for me, straight up. Just gotta say, and sorry, I had to check something. That was for me. So that's the whole Mirror House part. Let's get to H.H. Holmes. H.H. Holmes was a real guy, and he was a criminal. He did kill at least one person. He was convicted for it. But all this murder house shit and whatnot is bullshit. This game simply goes under the premise that it was true, which is not. But it's still interesting. This game to me is basically like a what if, right? What if the shit they say about Holmes and his murder castle was real? That's how I see it as. It's reincarnation. Yeah, this game is pretty good in the first half, but not so much in the second. What can I say? Once you made it just fighting a man, I just kind of lost all interest. Actually, here's another thing too. So, I mentioned that I assumed that he kidnapped Charlie and Mark, right, and all that, and that he was going to give an offer you can't refuse. Here's the thing. This game has more than one ending. I'm certain that if somebody else did different decisions, that he would in fact capture them, and I'm sure he would in fact give them the option to do so. I'm just going to go into that assumption. Because that's the way I see this working out. And I know I haven't seen every possibility, but that's just kind of how I see it. And then when it comes to other bullshit, here's another issue of mine. I know this is a very succinct review, but I honestly don't have that much to say about this game. The coins. I collect those motherfuckers every chance I got. I got to like, what, 71 of them? Never even fucking used them. So what the fuck? You know what? Actually, hold up. Let me see if I can use those damn things in the collectibles or something. Can I use it in collectibles? Let's see if I can't clear out a critique here. Nope. So nothing. Ugh. Yeah, nothing much. All well. So, is there really anything else I can think of right now? I guess I've already covered like all the bases. This game is on. I'll give a final review, like a final verdict, and then a grade. And I guess that'll pretty much be it because I don't have much else to say about this. This game is pretty mid. I'll give this game. I'm gonna give this game a bit of a harsh grade. I'll give this game, at least playing it alone, a C+. That's all I'll give this game. That's all there is to it for now, though. So, this has been my review. Stay frosty, have a good day, and yeah. Thank you and goodbye.